There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, if you want.
One, two, three, set, go.
Right now on the Power Chord Hour, I'm very stoked to be talking to the man who does it all, Mr. Mikey Erg. And you know Mikey from the Ergs, the Worriers, the Dopamines, countless other bands. Too many to count at this point. But the Ergs are back with 2 new EPs. They apparently are staying busy. We're going to talk some new music with Mikey and just kind of get into it all. Mikey, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I've really been looking forward to this. I've been enjoying the new music. So I mean,
Awesome.
I guess the big thing we'll be talking about will be the Ergs and the new music. So I guess to start out, like, take us back a little bit. I know the Ergs have been back for a little while, but like, what led to the reformation of the band? What got you guys back to playing together?
Yeah, that's a good question. What was it? We always kind of I feel like we gotten back together a couple times, a couple different reasons. Like we did pretty much right after we broke up, a couple years after we did like a benefit for a friend's mom was going through cancer, and we did a benefit for that. And then a couple years after that, we got back together and just did punk rock karaoke at the Asbury Lanes, which is something we used to do all the time when we were an active band. So we got back together to do that, but like we were never really on the same page about like whether we wanted to do it again or whatever. And then I feel like in 2016, just stars aligned, and Chris Gethard asked us to get back together to do his television show, to be a musical guest on the television show. And we did that and Fest right after that. And that was kind of like the, it was just kind of all the stars aligning that year to, play Fest, which is something I'd always wanted to do again. And with the Ergs at least, and do the Chris Gethard show. And that was just pretty huge for us.
No, that seems like a pretty good reason to get back together. Those are good reasons to play again.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we kind of just, if something cool comes up, we'll do it. Like we got asked to open for the Descendants
Nice.
in our hometown, basically, in I think that was 2017. So yeah, anytime something cool comes up, we're good. We're good to do it. I was listening to a interview with Travis from Piebald the other day, and he was saying that one of their, I forget, whatever the first show back was, a reunion show, and now they're just a reunited band. and I kind of feel the same way. We're like, I don't think we'll ever be to a point where we're like a heavy touring band again, but if something cool comes up, we're open to doing it.
I was gonna ask you, it was something I was gonna ask you later, but it's kind of going with what you're saying now. Like, do you feel like now the Ergs is kind of maybe less pressure? Like, is now it kind of more for fun than it once was? Like, I mean, back in the day, I'm sure you were touring more and maybe you were trying to do more with the band, where at this point, I mean, and you have so many other projects too, where it's like, this isn't like your main thing. It very much sounds, I mean, you said you're doing it for fun anyway. So, I mean, is so much of that pressure off now, just like in the second half, I guess, of the Ergs?
Yeah, it like kind of yes and no. Like definitely in that respect, in terms of like, the pressure. I mean, I feel like a lot of what contributed to the breakup was just like trying to be an active band and trying to be so like, I was feeling a lot of pressure to write songs, and we were just, we were playing like 4 or 5 times a week and touring like all summer. And yeah, it was just, there's a bit of pressure there. So that pressure's eased a bit, but I also feel that like, it's a little weird just because the Ergs is this kind of big thing in and of itself. So like doing I feel a lot of pressure about like whenever we do new records and put new music out or do another reunion show, it's got to live up to this, like, old standard. So that pressure's kind of still there a bit.
I would think then too, like, but you're at least, like, the pressure's there. So that probably also means, though, you're not as hell bent to, like, get music out. It's like, if it's good, you'll get it out, but you're probably not trying to be like, oh my God, we have to get something out.
Right. Yeah. Basically, it's just like if we've been talking about doing new recordings for a while, and yeah, it's basically like if it feels like Erg stuff, then we should do it. Like these 2 EPs that we just made are largely comprised of older songs that we never got around to recording back when we were actually together. At least, like, all of my songs on the 2 7-inches are older, that we just kind of found demos of and thought they were cool, and we were just like, let's just record these. These are fun little tunes.
I think they worked very well.
Yeah, it came out really well. So that's a step in the right direction.
For like as far as I know, like, those are older songs, but like for I know you put out a few things since you guys have, like, kind of gotten back together. Like, how long after those playing shows together did you get the idea to even write songs? Like, was it, because it does sound like it unfolded, like, when did it become the time where you even entertained that, hey, maybe we'll record stuff or maybe write new music?
Yeah, we did a 7-inch in 2016 when we got back together. We just thought it would be cool to have something new for Fest, like to sell it at the Fest when we played. So that was basically the impetus for doing that goddamn Death Dedication EP that came out in 2016. And then I think this stuff is the only stuff we've done since then. And that was really just like finding these songs, and Joe wrote a new one, and we kind of recorded it all in one big session. And this was also like during kind of the pandemic, so we were all kind of bored anyway, so we just at one point we just decided to get together and do some recording. We did this huge, like, batch of tunes, and then we sat on it for a little bit trying to figure out what we wanted to do with it, whether we wanted to put it out as an entire release. And I was pretty set on breaking it up into 2, because it felt like 2 different things to me, like a more country-ish type EP and a more pop punk kind of EP. So we ended up breaking it up into 2 EPs, which is pretty rad. But, like, if you look at the cover art, the cover art was all done by the same person, and they're definitely related projects.
When it came to, like, recording with each other again, was there some rust to shake off, or did it kind of, and actually not just recording, I guess also just playing together, like, was there some rust to shake off, or was it like you guys never stopped playing?
No, it's like we never stopped. That's like the cool thing. It's the most, like, kind of fascinating and cool thing about the Ergs to me is, like, no matter how much time we take away from it, like, I think in 2016 we booked like 3 pretty long practices, and I think we canceled the last 2 after the first one, because we were just like, we're it's still there, we still got it.
Oh, that's great.
It's super interesting it's this, like, magical thing with the 3 of us where because we've been playing together for so long that it's just, we can still kind of finish each other's sentences musically and stuff like that. So that's the other thing that makes it, like, pretty easy to just get back together whenever we feel like something is worth doing, because it's not like we don't have to put a lot of we don't have to practice for 6 months to get ready or whatever, at least for now. That's the other thing about the Ergs too, is that, like, it's like we might as well do it now, because none of us are getting any younger, and it gets harder and harder to play that fast and that loud. So we better get it done now before we can't do it anymore.
Get it out while you can. I'm sure. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
I wouldn't be bummed that there's a high output of Ergs material, and I'm sure most people wouldn't. That's not I don't think I would be bummed if you guys decide to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about doing more, so we're taking it day by day.
For the two new EPs, where were they recorded at?
They were recorded at a place called Volume 4 in New Brunswick, New Jersey. That's Chris Pierce, who produced Dork Rock Cork Rod. He did Jersey Best Prancers. We pretty much, I'd say 90% of our recorded output was done with him, and he just knows, he knows how we sound, and he yeah his stuff, like, I've been working with him for, since the Ergs too. We've done a lot of projects together, so it made perfect sense to just do the EPs with him. And they were super easy, super quick. Like, the sessions took no time at all. It was just fun. But yeah, he's basically done most of our recordings.
Traditionally for the Ergs, when you guys go into the studio, are you a band who basically you go in and like know everything you're gonna play, have the songs finished, or do you screw around at all in the studio?
We basically have it, basically how we write is, or certainly with my songs, like I'll come up with the basic, like, chords and lyrics, and then we'll kind of just play through them a couple times. And typically Joe and Jeff will go away and do, like, or back when we were an active band, they'd go away and kind of work on like little riffs or whatever, guitar intros and stuff on their own. I feel like with this stuff, certainly with my songs on these records, they were old songs that we did used to play, so we honestly didn't have to go through much.
That probably made it easier.
Rehearsal, yeah. Like, and it's somehow, even though like Ultimate Falsetto Book, I don't think we played in 20 years, but
Wow.
we just like remembered it because we like cut it out of the set pretty, probably around 2002, 2003. So, but and like with Jeff's new song and Joe's new song, we kind of just like learn them. I think we did one practice before he went actually into the studio, and our practice space is literally the same room that the studios the studio recordings are done.
That makes it easy,
like,
then.
So I think we did practice it beforehand, but it was really just felt like another session.
Yeah, I guess so at that point.
But yeah, but like that's the same thing where like we just have this kind of musical, bond that it really, we kind of just know what to play on each other's songs and stuff. It's always really come pretty easy for us.
Do you think that's also from, like, to your credit, like going around and jumping in other bands and being someone who has to probably go learn material fairly fast, and sometimes that sometimes that you don't know? Do you feel like any of that helped you coming back to the Ergs and being able to, kind of keep that sharpness?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I definitely, that was one of my reasonings. One of my reasons for doing that kind of stuff in the first place, playing every band I could, was to, keep myself in practice and keep myself in, to just always be playing different types of music and different. So yeah, I don't know. I can't point to a specific example where it did help, but that was the point. So I'm hoping that I'm sure it probably did help, just broaden my, musical horizons and.
Oh, totally.
But,
I would totally think that would. For the two new EPs on top of that, you guys also have the second collection of non-album songs coming out.
Yes.
And all three of these I thought was really neat. So you have the three releases coming out, and they're all coming out on like different labels. Do you want to talk about like each label, who's putting them out, and kind of how you got involved with each one a little bit?
Yeah. So yeah, and there's reason. So we've been talking to Ken Dirtnap, because I think I think he's announced this. I think we can talk about it. But there was like a Dirtnap. There's a Dirtnap 20th anniversary show, I think, coming up in June, and so we were slated to play that. That was supposed to happen in 2020, but it got canceled because of the pandemic. But this is, it's happening this year.
Oh, good.
And so we'd already kind of been in touch with him for that. And when we recorded everything just on our own dime. And then we basically were like trying to figure out what to do with all these songs. And when we decided to break up the EPs, we hadn't done a record with Ken since the first collection. So we just thought it would be cool. The last record we did when we got back together in 2016, what we did with WRFA, and WRFA Records was the first label we ever, that put anything out by us. So it felt cool to just go back and do another 7-inch with him. And then it kind of was just like, we haven't done anything with Dirt Nap for a while. Let's see if Ken's interested. We sent him the stuff and he was super on board. And then the other EP, the Renovations EP, that's on a label called Wall Ride, which is run by Derek, who plays drums in Nightbirds.
Oh, nice.
Joe. And we've been friends with him since since back when we were totally active. And he actually, there's the song Tonight's the Night and the song Penny in the Jukebox, which are on the Renovations EP. Those are songs I wrote in 2004, 2005. We used to do them a bit, and then I just decided I wasn't a fan of them. But the whole time, I forget. I don't know how Derek ended up with a demo tape of these songs, but he was like, "You got to release these songs. They're so good." And I just never wanted to release them. But then, once we got back together and recorded them a year ago, it was a no-brainer to have him put that EP out, because he'd been hounding us for 15 years to try to release these songs. So that was that made those two decisions easy. Obviously let's go with Ken for this, and let's go with Derek for this. And then with the compilation record, we were just we kind of went through a period where, we weren't an active band. We the collection was mostly stuff that we did after we broke up on it. It was all recordings that we made before we broke up, but came out after, and towards the end of the band. And we were just no one's going to want to buy this on vinyl. But it was we're feeling that before the vinyl boom, where now everybody's,
now
pressing everything on vinyl. And then at some point, I have a good relationship with Eric from Creep Records. I go to his record store all the time. I see him at shows a lot, and he was just he expressed interest in doing the second collection record on LP. And it just, it just all came together pretty easily and pretty quickly. The layout, the art stuff was all done because we put it all in the digital release. So it really wasn't too much effort on our end to try to get it all put together. And then he said, we've been listening to records on Creep Records for our entire lives. So it's just an honor to be doing something on Creep, the label that did Ply United, and the label that, they put out so much stuff that we used to listen to all the time. So it was just cool to be able to get that together.
That's awesome.
And once we put it together for vinyl, I kind of was listening to it, and I was like, this is a cool collection. It was a lot of covers, so we were kind of, I guess, down on it. It's probably about half covers.
Oh, really?
But I mean, in a way that's cool, because
oh yeah,
I always like hearing bands cover songs, and then I discover music that way too. So
oh, absolutely. Also, I mean, the two new covers on the EP are also solid. I mean, I'm always up for a good cover. I think most
totally.
are.
And those were songs we used to, the zombie song we used to do all the time back in the day.
Oh, really?
And we used to do it live. We were always kind of known for whatever wacky covers we would do. But yeah, so we would do that all the time back in the day, and we just decided to record it because we have it's funny, we do a straight cover of it, but it sounds like us, so it's
I love it
pretty
because
cool.
it's very like there you can tell what song it is. If you're familiar with the original song, you would right away know what it
Yeah.
is. Like you stay true to it, but it's like there's that Ergs edge to it. Like there's that part
Yeah.
where it's like the Ergs touch on it. I absolutely love it. And I know I told you too
Yeah.
with the other one, I was getting Say You're Sorry. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but like I was getting some early like Sorry Ma Stink era like Replacements vibe on it. Obviously it's a little older than that, but like that,
Yeah.
I kind of got that vibe from. I don't know if it was that intentional or not, but that's kind of what I got from it. And I loved it. I loved that I felt that way listening to it.
It wasn't intentional, but like that obviously is that record in general is a huge influence on us. And honestly, like I may have been listening to it a bit around when we recorded it because they just reissued it as a box set.
I was going to ask if you've listened to that yet, actually.
Oh yeah, of course. It's
so good,
mind blowing. But yeah, honestly, like the Remains did 2 versions of it in their studio output, and one is like a kind of slower or like a mid-tempo version of it, and one of them is just like a rave up, and it's honestly not that different from our version. The Remains fast version is basically exactly where we were coming from when we covered it. We just added a bit of distorted guitar that they didn't have back then. But,
yeah. Well, speaking like you were saying of like covers and finding new band stuff, like I honestly had not heard that song before, and I had to go back and listen, and I loved it right away. That was right up my alley. Some good old like proto punk, basically.
They were always one of our favorite bands. Like Jeff discovered them, I think, in his dad's record collection, and was just like, this band is. They were from this 64, 65. They opened for the Beatles at Shea Stadium, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, like they were on that bill, but so they're from the mid 60s, but he was like, they were like a fast punk band. They're so great.
I love those early, just those inklings of punk rock before there was punk rock. You had to
absolutely.
You had to think out of the side of the box. Like they're really like to like come up with that, like where your influence comes from is much harder when the Ramones don't exist.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. Totally.
But I wanted to talk too, like something that I discuss on this show all the time, even though I'm not from New Jersey, is the New Jersey like pop punk and ska scene of like the late 90s, early 2000s. And obviously the Ergs, like, you guys started in you guys started in 2000, didn't you? The year 2000?
Yep.
So yeah, you were like right in there. So I wanted to ask, like, what was the local scene like around the time you guys got around? Like, was it still as like healthy and vibrant as it was a few years earlier?
It was there. Yeah, I guess it wasn't as it wasn't as vibrant. Like when I got into punk probably around like when I was like 13 or 14. And that was right when I was entering high school, and the scene at that time was incredible. Like it was, there were every firehouse or first aid hall or whatever was having people doing shows there, and like, we would see all, Inspector 7, Weston. Catch 22, there were just like so many incredible local bands playing these like these rented hall, Wayne Firehouse, and like just like all these the Palace in Boundbrook, and all these incredible venues and incredible shows. And then I feel like, I mean, we would play locally, but when we got going, like New Brunswick basement shows were kind of our the shows we would play locally, and those were around the time that we started. Those were pretty fruitful. We were playing New Brunswick every like 4 or 5 times a week.
Jeez.
So it was, and there were a lot of incredible, like all the bands that we were, peers with, the Hunchback and Screaming Females, and there were a lot of really great local bands, and then we would go on tour, or and a bunch of us would go on tour, and then bring all these other like national touring acts through, and that scene became it was, I mean, it was a super fun time to be playing music in the like mid, 2003 to 2008 or whatever in New Brunswick. Was just like a super fun time because everybody was, everybody that came through that was touring was just so phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that whole like New Jersey scene blows my mind when you're talking to. I mean, last week I had Jay Vix on, who was in a few bands back in the day, and we just like discussing the stuff where it's like, dude, like they just like that. It's normal that on a weekend, like you would have like 3 or 4 shows to choose from, and there would actually be people, and not a few people, like packed, like that. Like there's no local scene that's really like that. So.
No, that's true. Yeah.
I guess for you, like when you started going other places, because I asked him and he said it was kind of weird, like having a scene like that when you started venturing other places that didn't have scenes like that. I mean, did you think that was the norm from the beginning, growing up in that?
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, it was pretty crazy to go on tour and then go to a town where it was like only bar shows were happening, like there weren't all ages shows or whatever. You'd run into that sometimes, but yeah, it definitely was probably I don't know, like you had the expectations that were that you'd have these like all these cool local scenes, and some places just didn't have that.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's why I just think it was such a fascinating era, and I mean that music's so damn good too. A lot of it really does hold up well. Like
absolutely, yeah.
Just from teenagers and stuff, which again, like credit to that scene. But like when you did start, when the Ergs started like playing, and I don't know if Dirt Bike Annie toured a lot or not after, so maybe you did some touring before the Ergs, but like, where are some of the places you played first outside of like the tri-state area? You know what I mean? Like outside of there, where were some of the first like out of town gigs you were like playing?
Yeah, at? The first the first tour I ever did was the Dirt Bike Annie tour in the summer of 2000, and the Ergs had just started, and Dirt Bike Annie were like, "Hey, why don't you bring your other band?" So my first tour ever was a Dirt Bike Annie Ergs tour.
Jeez, you're playing both bands.
And I was playing, and I was doing double duty, so I learned that pretty early, how to do that. And that was like, so, and when the Ergs started, we didn't play locally a ton in the first couple of years of the band. We kind of didn't know too many people yet, and so we'd play Pennsylvania all the time. Like central and like kind of eastern Pennsylvania we'd play all the time. So that was kind of like that's our first kind of, quote unquote out of town, even though that is that's the tri-state area, I think, right?
Yeah.
But Pennsylvania part of the tri-state area?
I would say it is, but still fair enough.
Yeah. And then that first tour that we did, we played, I remember we played Cleveland, we played Chicago. We went to Canada for the first time and played London, Ontario, and that was great. We're in a different country. Holy hell. So that was, and that was cool. We played Atlanta on that tour. It was probably like a 2.5, 3 week tour. So we got our feet wet on that. We only had like the demos out at that point. So, and then we would kind of make it a point to do at least one long tour every year, usually in the summer, like a full US. And we from that tour, we basically, I guess, kind of around the time Cork Rod came out, we did a tour with MC Chris, and that was like a 3-month long tour, and then that kind of made it obvious that we needed to do this all the time. We got super into touring from that experience.
On those like those early tours, do you remember like any cities or even like an area, like would be Midwest or whatever, like that embraced the band early on, like that you had maybe like the best kind of reception?
Yeah, absolutely. The Midwest was always like Chicago, Milwaukee, um, and Ohio. Like we would have these incredible shows in Milwaukee, like really like house shows, but super packed and super, rabid fans. And when we have a friend, this guy Pat Dull in Columbus, who ran a record label called Breakup Records at the time, and they put out a Dirtbag Andy record, and he was always the first guy to like hook us up shows in Columbus, and he put us together with this band Delay in Columbus. This band of kids that just got to town for college, and we ended up hooking up with them, and we would play some of the craziest, like best house shows in Columbus and Cincinnati. There was a place called the Glendora House that was just like these incredible house shows in Ohio. So like, yeah, we were super embraced by the Midwest, and that's always been, like I always think of the Midwest as like the place where we're the most popular.
Do you, from playing Cincinnati and like playing Glendora, is that like how you met the Dopamines then? Is from playing back in the Ergs?
Yeah. John Weiner lived at Glendora, and so yeah, I met them all in that capacity, and then Dopamines, once the Dopamines became a band, they did a lot of touring. We would just run into each other all the time, and then eventually I joined the band for a bit.
It makes sense.
That's what I do.
Yeah, you got to join each band for a little while at least.
Mm-hmm.
At this point with the Ergs, I mean, I'm sure drumming and singing is nothing. You've done it a bunch. But was that hard in the beginning? I mean, I'm always kind of blown away by people who can sing and drum at the same time.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot. Everybody asks me that, and like but yeah, it's always been kind of second nature to me for some reason. Like I think I've always just been the singer, or whenever I was practicing drums, I would sing along to whatever I was playing. So it never really, it never really felt like like anything difficult for me. It always came easy to me for whatever reason.
When it comes to playing live, I mean, maybe you don't have a preference, but is it more fun playing drums or guitar? Do you have one? Or I mean, they're both pretty equally enjoying both.
Yeah, I do enjoy them both. I probably, like, my favorite times on stage were probably me playing guitar with probably the Dopamines is probably the best example, just because you just get to turn up your amp to 10 and just fucking jump around. I don't know.
Those would be fun. Those would be fun songs to be playing guitar on. That seems like a very energetic live set if you're playing guitar to it.
It's great, yeah. And I was just playing rhythm guitar, so it's just it's just I just had to make sure I remembered the chords through my hangover. But yeah, it's I have a lot of fun jumping around and playing guitar. But drums are fun too. You get to bash the life out of stuff, so that's cool. But yeah, I feel like some of those Dopamines tours playing guitar were some of my most fun on stage.
Do you ever like for someone who seems to, I mean, obviously you sing a lot on stage, but you're normally either playing guitar or drumming as well. Is it ever weird for you just singing on stage? Because I know some people, I notice when they don't have an instrument, they're used to it. It's odd to not have one with you.
It is weird, yeah. Like I kind of feel like I normally have to, like, I hold on to the mic stand or something. I don't.
You gotta hold on to something.
I don't do it all that often. Yeah, I gotta hold on to something. But yeah, it is weird. It is weirder than not having an instrument in my hands.
What was your first instrument?
Drums. My dad was is a drummer, and there was always drums around, and he owned a recording studio too.
Nice.
When I was growing up, so there was always a place to go and hit drums. I've been doing it most of my life, but like probably around like, I don't know, 8 or 9, I kind of started becoming more serious about it and just playing the drums every day and just trying to become better.
Before
And then and then just around like 11 or 12, I feel like is when I started teaching myself guitar chords, and that was so.
how long like
That
after
happened,
that
right.
did you start like writing songs?
I was writing songs. Basically, the Ergs kind of formed out of a bunch of like probably 3 or 4 different bands that we all kind of ended up playing together in high school, just like little fuck around in the basement bands. And I was kind of writing songs around, so probably around like 14 or 15 is when I wrote some of my first songs. That, of course, we're not great, but uh, um, but yeah, it was around getting into punk and realizing, oh, I can do that, like
Punk's always good for that. That you can
yeah,
I can obtain this. This is something I can do. But
yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean,
before
that's
discovering punk, what were you listening to?
I was listening to. I mean, like my first favorite band was probably the Beatles. I listened to a lot of classic rock when I was, when I was growing up. Um, yeah, Beatles, Led Zeppelin, like Rush,
Nice.
just a lot of classic rock. And then around like the early '90s, I got into metal, so I got into like Metallica and Megadeth and Pantera and stuff like that. And then Nirvana happened, and then that was my obsession for Seattle, and all things Seattle were my obsession for a couple of years, and then punk came right after that with like Rancid and Green Day becoming popular. Uh, and around that same time, getting into like the Sex Pistols and Clash and all that stuff, Ramones.
Nice.
So yeah,
And having a great local scene later on too doesn't hurt
yeah, and
either.
that really, yeah, really, it was cool to, that like all these like I always credit the Youth Ahead with like the first punk band I ever saw live, because
Nice.
they went to our high school, and yeah, and it's a pretty infectious thing to see a punk band play for the first time. And then then I started seeing like NoFX and Descendants, and just started going to every punk show I could, and that was just mind blowing.
You always I feel like you always have a good like ear, or you're just good at writing like catchy melodies. Do you feel like there's any artist, like when you are like writing melodies and stuff, like do you think there's any artists who have kind of shaped how you like writing them or how you write them? And I mean, kind of even going with that, like stuff you listened to before, outside of
Mm.
punk, like do you think you kind of bring some of those outside influences in when writing stuff like, punk rock, still bringing in some of
Yeah, I
that?
mean, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Like, and I've always, no matter what I've been listening to, I'm always drawn to like the melodies. I love craft work, and I love like certain, I don't know, jazz stuff, and it's all about the thing that I'm drawn to is like the melodies of it all. So I'm sure that that's all seeping in and coming out uh, as mine at some point. Yeah, I don't really think about it too much. Uh, when I'm writing songs, I kind of just like, a lot of times I'll just be sitting with a guitar, and I'll just start playing some chords, and then just like whatever melody comes to me. Sometimes it comes to me with lyrics. Sometimes it comes to me, just as like a blah blah blah, and then I fill in the words later. But yeah, I kind of just sing into a recorder, and that's how I write. But I'm sure all those many melodic influences are coming out in some form.
Are you someone who's always like writing music, or are you someone who will get those bursts of inspiration, write a ton, and then be good for a little while and like maybe
Yeah,
not write?
definitely the latter. Definitely like a burst of, you know, and that's, I kind of like that. I like the aspect of, I like thinking of albums as like a time and a place, and so I like that, oh, in these in this couple week or couple month or whatever period I wrote these songs, and that's what that album is. Like it's that those 2 weeks of my life or whatever. And like, and then once you purge that, I need a break for a bit.
I think that's a really good point, though, what you're saying, because you're right. If you're doing an album, which I like things as a fully realized idea, so I like an album.
Yeah,
where it's,
same.
Like,
Same.
And I think you have a good point, because if you're just writing songs on and off or all the time, and it's just basically a compilation of 10 of those 20 songs you wrote in the last 2 or 3 years, like maybe it's not as good. Maybe they're spread out. You were a different person at this time, or you're going through something different.
Right.
So I've never really thought of that part, but that is a great point. I feel like your stuff would be a lot more realized. And, you know, if you're trying to have it all kind of make sense and flow together, that's kind of what you want. And the time capsule thing too, that it's of a certain time or what you're writing about at that time, like that totally makes sense, that I've never thought of before, actually.
Yeah, and I've absolutely, I feel like in my experience, like the longer, and like I don't like working on things too much, because I just feel like something gets in the way and you just start overthinking. I hate overthinking things, and like you know, I just think it makes for bad, you know, if you hear an album that was worked on for 20 months or whatever, it's just like, you know, you probably could have just gotten it done in a couple of weeks, and it would have had this, like, you know, this urgency to it. And so, yeah, I like working like that, where, you know, you kind of just, you know, obviously I don't want anything to be, I don't mean for anything to be like, you know, not thought out and, you know, bad, but I do think there is I do think you can overthink things.
Kind of going along with that, like, when you're working on a song, will you abandon ship if it doesn't seem to work after a while? Kind of like what you're saying is, like, if you have to work on it too much.
Yeah, I will. Every once in a while, and like, you know, but you know, in the world we live in now, it's super easy. Like that draft will always be in my phone, and I can come back to it later, or, you know. Yeah,
it's true. It doesn't really go away
so
if you have a copy.
Right. Yeah. So like that's kind of, you know, the good, you know, my phone is filled with, you know, hundreds of ideas of things, but yeah, I feel like I will do that, but it's not often. Like I'll normally finish up what I start.
You've obviously played on tons and tons of your own records, other people's records. Have you done any, like, recording and producing for other people? Like, as a production side, anything you're interested in?
No, I haven't. I am interested in it. And that's actually, like, something I've been thinking about a lot lately, you know, with you know, especially the last couple of years, with live music not really being a thing that I was able to do. You know, and, you know, growing up in a recording studio, that's always been something I was attracted to. So I have been, you know, thinking a lot more about, I should really get more into that and learn a bit more about that side of things. Like, that's always my favorite part about making records, is like hanging out in the studios and looking at and, you know, or playing around with the equipment, and just like standing in awe of all this wonderful sound making stuff.
Studio
so
is always
I do want to get more into it. Yeah,
I'm actually surprised. Yeah, I was wondering that, because I'm almost surprised you haven't yet. Like, just as much as you play with bands, I was thinking maybe I missed something, but I was like, I almost think he would have at some point.
Yeah, you know what, you would think, but yeah, it's time to be more proactive about that, I guess.
You got the future. You can. You still got time. You can do it.
It's never too late.
Oh, it'll be like we were talking about earlier. Do all the Ergs stuff now. Get all that out now, like all the fast shit. And then when you get a little older, then you can sit back and you can be in the producer's chair. There you go.
Absolutely. I'm there.
Retirement plan. But I did see, I thought, very, very cool. I see you're playing South by Southwest this year. Is this your first time ever performing?
No, I played 2 years ago at South by, and actually Dirt Bike Annie did it like 20 years ago.
Oh my God. Wow.
So, but I hadn't been back since. But 2 years ago, I played the Don Giovanni showcase, and it was awesome. I had such a blast. So yeah, I'm excited to do it again this year.
Outside of South by Southwest, do you have any other like shows coming up, solo, Ergs, or any other bands you're playing in?
Nothing. Nothing I can talk about. I don't think. But there are a few things that are going to be announced very soon that I'm very 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 excited about.
Nice.
The Ergs are doing that Dirt Nap thing. That's June 12th and 13th, I think, something around then, or somewhere in June. The Ergs are doing the Dirt Nap uh, show, and that'll be a blast.
That sounds like that'll be fun.
And yeah, what else? Yeah, I think that's basically it. I'm about to leave for a Worriers tour next week.
Nice.
That was another thing that got canceled. The first day that lockdown started happening was the day this tour was supposed to start.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, we're making that up now. And we're doing a couple shows with Jawbreaker.
Nice.
In a couple of months, so that'll be cool.
How did you start playing with Worriers? I always forget you've been playing and been on Sony Albums with them for a while. How did you start joining them?
Well, yeah, because I've played in the Measure with Lauren, in the late like 2009, 2010 ish area, and then Lauren started Worriers as kind of like a side project for the Measure. I think that's how it started, and then at some point. They were about to make the Cruel Optimist EP, which is the first like Worriers kind of 12-inch, and wrote me an email saying I think they basically were going to make it more of a full-time thing. I guess the Measure had broken up by that point, so they were going to make it more of a full-time thing, and asked if I would play drums. So yeah, I've been on, except for the first 7-inch, I've been on every record. And done most of the touring. There were some tours that I like when I was playing drums on the Chris Gethard show. I had to like opt out of some tours just because that was, I had a job to do. It's been about probably 10 years at this point.
Jeez. Yeah, I always forget that. Like, I always know, like, I know you're associated with them and you play with them, but, like, I'm like, wow, I always forget you've been on all those records and, like, have played with them so long. Do you do any writing with the band, or is that mostly Lauren?
It's all Lauren.
All
basically.
Lauren?
Like the first couple records, we would kind of sit in a practice room and they would play me songs, and, we kind of, I guess maybe arrange them together a bit, but yeah, it's for the most part, it's basically all Lauren.
Nice. I was wondering that, but I want to jump back as we kind of like a couple last questions here. I wanted to ask you, the two covers on the new EP are great. I know you said you did a bunch of covers back in the day, and obviously there's a bunch on the collection coming up. But were there any other covers that were in consideration to do on this EP before you did these two?
No. I can't even remember what the conversation was. I think it was just the two random ones that we picked. It's just what we felt like doing at the time, kind of thing. I don't remember what why we chose those two. The Remains one we had done like the last time we played, or the last like little batch reunion shows we did. We played shows in Boston, and we were kind of doing this thing on that run where every town we did a Minor Threat song in DC, and we did a Ramon song or something in New York, and I think we wanted to do a Boston song in Boston, and so we did 2 shows, and we covered Just What I Needed at one of the shows, and the Remain song at the other show, because they're from Boston. So it was just kind of fresh in our minds from just learning it for those shows. So that was why we did that. And I think we just always liked our cover of Time of the Season, and never actually recorded it. So
they worked with
just decided to do that.
They really mesh well with the 2 Erg songs. Like
They do, yeah.
They go back to back really well. Like, I mean, because you have the Erg song cover, and if you didn't know they were covers, like, honestly, you could. Which, I mean, it might be a little easier to say You're Sorry. Maybe people don't know that one as well. The other one, maybe you can't say it's your own.
The other one's
but
a bona fide hit. But
but like if you didn't know those songs, like honestly, I would say, oh, they're all 4 originals. Like they all mesh and like it's just sequenced so well and works so well together. So I mean, those I think you picked good covers.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm stoked on it.
I had a it is kind of a random question, but on that topic of covers, I've always, if you can't tell from the Replacements question earlier, I love the Replacements, and I love your cover of I'm in Trouble that was on that years ago, that Will Inherit the Earth comp, which I turned someone on recently to. They'd never heard it, and I blew their mind with it. But do you
that's awesome.
Do you remember like how you guys got on that, or how that kind of all came to be? I just randomly found it a few years ago and was kind of the same way when I found it, like, oh my God, this is like, holy shit.
Yeah, I remember hearing through the grapevine. I think we had a few friends that were going to be on it. I don't think we were asked. I'm pretty sure we like cold emailed 1 2 3 4 go, and like hadn't had any. I think maybe I don't know if we'd had any interaction with them before that, but I'm pretty sure we cold emailed them, and I feel like I remember the response was like, oh my God, yes, absolutely, you guys can be on it. Like they were stoked that we had asked. And I feel like, I think we wanted to do, I mean, we were such Replacements nerds that I think we wanted to do Heyday at one point.
Nice.
We had a few songs that we wanted to do, and they were already taken. So we picked I'm in Trouble, which I mean, it's just a
classic.
It's always been one of my favorite songs. So
no, you guys, you did a great cover on it. Did you back in the day, you say you did a lot of live covers? Were there any other Replacements covers in the Erg set back in the day at all?
Yeah, we would do Customer all the time.
Oh, nice.
We would do Bastards of Young all the time. We would do Can't Hardly Wait.
Did Heyday ever get one? Because honestly, you guys would do a killer fucking version of Heyday.
No, I don't think we ever actually ended up learning it.
I think you need to do that.
Hey, anything's possible. I would love to.
Yeah.
We used to do Fuck School all the time.
Nice.
We used to do a ton. They're definitely, they might be our collective favorite band.
Nice.
As a band.
They're my all-time favorite, hands down. So anytime for Replacements talk, a little Replacements talk we got to have. But
absolutely, yeah.
As we close it out, for one, the Renovations EP, is there a release date on that? Do we know when that'll be out?
I think the vinyl is still not in hand. A
lot of delays right now.
Yeah, everything's been so screwed up. I would say within the next couple weeks, it should be in stock and shipping. But I did find that it is, whether this is a mistake or not, it is on the streaming services at the moment.
Oh, it is.
So yeah, if you search for Ergs Renovations on your preferred streaming service of choice, mine is Qobuz. I feel like I always have to point that out because no one knows about it. But yeah, it's available on streaming stuff right now, so you can listen to it right now.
Very nice. Well, I mean, you said there's some touring stuff, which we'll find that out later in the future. But anything else we should like be looking forward to you doing in the rest of 2022? Like whether solo, the Ergs. I mean, you have a million different things.
yeah, I think I think Ergs will be doing. Look out for some stuff in the summertime. Ergs, I have a couple of shows booked around that same time. I will be releasing a solo album
Oh, nice.
with, God willing, if pressing plant stuff is in my favor. But yeah, that should be out in June. So I'll probably try to do a little touring on that. And yeah, I think the Ergs are going to play Fest this year,
Nice.
so that should be cool. And yeah, just stay tuned. There is some shit coming up. So
Very nice. Where can I mean, I know you said Renovations is streaming now, but where can people grab the all the new records? Where can they find you online? All that good stuff.
yeah, the Mikey Erg at bandcamp.com for all my, or MikeyErg.bandcamp.com for all my stuff. The Ergs.bandcamp.com. That's where you can get like all the Ergs records, and that comes from us. So you can ship them out. I think the Dirt Nap record's completely gone, but the Renovations will be up there, and the compilation is up there now. We just put that up on Friday, so you can get our stuff direct from us, and our T-shirts and stuff are up there too. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'm at Mikey Erg on all the stupid social media stuff.
Go follow you. Go follow them. Go buy the music. Lots of. I mean, you really you're starting off the year strong. I feel like, and it sounds like there's a lot of cool shit ahead as well. We're only in February, but
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, right now we are gonna play some songs off the new EP. Play some new Ergs for you, and we'll start it right now. This is Ultimate Falsetto Book right here on the Power Chord Hour. Here on the Power Chord Hour podcast, that was the latest from the Ergs with their cover of the Zombies' Time and the Season for you on really, I guess this is our Valentine's Day episode. It is February 14th. So for all you lovers out there, there was a really nice cover of a Time in the Season for you. And opening up that block of music was another new one from the Ergs. That was all Ultimate Falsetto Book. And you can hear both of those on the Ergs' brand new EP, Time and the Season. And definitely go grab that one. Renovations EP will be out soon. And if you just want the digital version of that Hindsight is 2020 Volume 2 that me and Mikey were talking about, the like non-album songs and covers and all that, that is out digitally. The vinyl and CD aren't out yet, but if you want to grab that on Bandcamp as well. So go grab all that stuff. Mikey Erg stays very, very busy. I mean, you probably know that. If you're listening to this, you're already a fan. I'm not like breaking the news to you that Mikey Erg plays in a lot of fucking bands. Like, I'm not like rocking your world right now. You were well aware of this, but that was awesome talking to him. Really, really, I've been a big fan for a really long time. And whether it's his solo stuff, the Ergs, Worriers are great. I know he is. I don't think he really played on anything like album-wise for the Dopamines. More of a touring member, but I mean, I love the Dopamines. So even just the fact that he plays with like tours with them. I've never seen the Dopamines live, but it would be even cooler to see them live with Mikey playing. But yeah, that was great talking to him. Lots of music to grab from the Ergs. It sounds like there'll be more stuff coming up later on in the year. So make sure you go follow Mikey. And I'll definitely be playing songs off this EP for a while. And I'm excited for the Renovations to come out because this last one, really, really good. So go grab that music. And while you're online supporting shit, also go follow the Power Chord Hour on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We're at Power Chord Hour. Very, very easy to remember. And that is our name on all three of those. Go give us a follow if you would. Our YouTube page, if you want to go follow or I guess subscribe, if you will, on our YouTube page, that would be very rad. Trying to, I don't feel like I push that enough. I didn't push it. I don't like make it aware, I should say. Like, hey, if you want to listen to these, if you're not already listening to this on YouTube, go check it out on our YouTube page. And also, I can't believe I didn't lead off with this. This is really cool. So this week is actually marking the 6th anniversary of the Power Chord Hour. Our very first radio show aired on 107.9 WRFA on February 19th of 2016. So this is our anniversary week, and I'm very stoked about that. And one way that we're celebrating, we are actually going back to our original time slot of 8 p.m. on Friday nights, but we are permanently at 4 hours, which is very, very rad. Every now and then lately, we've done some special episodes where I go an extra 2 hours, but the show starts at 10, so it goes 10 to 2. It goes pretty late, but the fine people at WRFA, and they are a great bunch, agreed to let me go back to 8 p.m. and then have 4 hours. So, I mean, I have like the whole evening or night, really, like, I mean, up until midnight. I have like the whole Friday night to just play music, interviews, all that fun stuff. I'm really excited. I mean, that's a lot of time to fill. So, I mean, a lot of, I mean, obviously I want to play more music now, be able to, but I mean, just different ideas, having more guests on, and maybe even like being able to replay some stuff. That's also cool, because a lot of times these radio shows, I love doing them, but they air like once. Like, we really don't do repeats unless I'm out. They'll replay them, but like there's so many episodes that have been played like once. So, even having that extra time to maybe like play some old stuff again, kind of go through 6 years worth of the vault. I mean, there's a lot of interviews too that are like, pre-podcast that haven't even made it on the podcast feed. So a lot of stuff to do with that. So if you want to tune into the radio show this Friday night for our 6th anniversary episode, I'm very, very stoked on it. I will be talking to, and this will be on the podcast feed later on, but if you want to check it out before that, I am talking to Travis Shettle of Piebald, because it just so happens, and I didn't realize this, We Are the Only Friends We Have turns 20 on the same day that we turned 6. Their album came out, I mean, my favorite Piebald album, just a classic. That one came out February 19th of 2002, and February 19th of 2016 we started. And I'm very stoked to be talking to Travis all about, writing, recording, and touring off that record, and just discussing all that with him. And since we have 4 hours, I have already decided, like, if you're a Piebald fan, I mean, again, like, our interview will be on the podcast next week. You'll be able to hear it. But like, if you're a big Piebald fan, I would actually say tune into the radio show, because I'm going to play all of We're the Only Friends That We Have afterwards. We're going to play it front to back on the radio show. And then like basically a greatest hits of Piebald. Like, off of that, I'll just play a bunch of stuff off the other records and some rarities and stuff. And then also what we're doing is, in the last hour, I'm going to play like a greatest hits set of our very, very first episode. I always have a spotty memory of the stuff I played on the very first episode, but I found a copy of it and went through and listened to the songs, and we're basically going to play the exact same playlist that I played on our very first episode 6 years before, or 6 years earlier, however you want to say it. You know what I'm saying? So really cool 6th anniversary episode. I got to say, I'm really excited to talk to Travis. I love that record. I love Piebald. And I'm also excited to be doing 4 hours every week. It is really fun, and also a challenge, because I mean, the radio show and the podcast are two different things. If you've never listened to a radio show, so I'm on top of doing the 4-hour radio show, I also do the podcast, and that's a whole different thing. So I got a lot on my plate, but I really enjoy doing it. It is very fun to do. So thank you for checking it out. Whether we've been listening to podcasts for the 2 years we've been doing it. If you happen to check out the radio show before that, if you're an OG, I mean, really respects to you. But, I mean, no matter what, thank you very much for checking out the show. This is your first episode listening to us, or, your 100th, whatever. Thank you very much for checking it out, because it makes it worthwhile doing it for 6 years now, and definitely going to keep going. So that is fun. It's funny. When I was like thinking of closing it out here and thanking Mikey and everything, I probably should have then jumped in, instead of like, hey, follow me on Twitter. I should have been like, oh, hey, new, like time change on the radio show, and also really long now. I mean, I realized the show is called the Power Chord Hour because originally it was only an hour. It was 8 to 9 on Friday nights from 2016 until like 2018. I think 2018, I then moved to like 10 o'clock. And then like 2020, it's like every 2 years. I think this is true. It's like every 2 years, because then in 2020, I believe I then went to 2 hours. And now in 2022, we're going to 4. So we just keep moving up in this world until I'm just going to take over all Friday. Just the 24-hour block from like midnight to midnight Friday is just going to be the Power Chord Hour. That's really that's the end goal there. But tune in. I mean, that's going to be a lot of fun. And again, if you're a Piebald fan, a shit ton of piebald. I mean, I'm gonna interview Travis, talk about this record that we all love, very near and dear to our hearts, and then right as soon as we're done, I'll play the whole album for you. What better way to celebrate into the night, to celebrate right up to midnight? Because then at midnight, the Power Chord Hour turns 6, and Piebald's We're the Only Friends That We Have turns 20. So wild shit. So tune in for that. But that's everything I have for you for this week. You can hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com. And yeah, I guess that is everything. So until next week for the Power Chord Hour podcast, I'm Anthony Merchant. Thank you so much for listening.